You ever scroll through Reddit or the other LSAT forums and you feel like everybody getting 175s lives in some alternate universe? They're all 22, single, no job, no kids, and somehow they study 6 hours a day in perfect silence. Meanwhile, you're over here sneaking in reading comp during your lunch break. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Some of my most successful LSAT students had less time than you. One was a single mom, one was a full time nurse doing night shifts, and one was a dad working 9 to 7 with two kids under the age of 5, and they still hit 170 plus. Because getting a top LSAT score isn't about having unlimited hours, it's about how you use the ones you already have. Now, here's the biggest trap students fall into. They think progress equals hours. If I just grind longer, eventually I'll get there. And that might work in college where you memorize more flashcards, cram harder, and pull all-nighters, but the LSAT doesn't care how much you know. It cares how well you think. You could spend 5 hours a day drilling questions randomly and still never improve. Or you could study 1 hour a day strategically and still break 170. Now, one of my students, a single mom, was terrified. She had only 1 hour in the morning before work and two during her son's nap time. 3 hours a day, tops. She thought it was hopeless. So, what I recommended is that we build her schedule around precision, not volume. We strip away all the busy work that prep companies typically push, the endless tests, the note taking, the over highlighting, and we replace it instead with targeted training. In other words, I recommended not doing more, but doing better, because that is the secret to scoring a 175 while working full time with a busy schedule. Think of it like investing. If you put money into a random index fund without a plan, you might get average results. But if you focus your energy where the returns are highest, you multiply your growth. Your time is your capital, so you don't want to waste it on low yield studying. If you're busy, your schedule has to be simple and automatic. No overthinking, no debating what to do next. So here is the structure I give to my working students. The first hour in the morning for deep focus where you build your skill. This is your quiet hour, before emails, before notifications, before life starts shouting your name. Even just 45 minutes here is gold. You want to pick the single section that's holding you back. If logical reasoning wrecks your confidence, start there every morning. Work on one specific skill, not 10. For example, set an agenda where you're saying, for example, I'm going to get better at necessary assumption questions. You do 3 to 5 questions of that exact type and review each one immediately. And when you finish, jot down one line. For example, the trap was that I confused sufficient with necessary again. That's all you need. That is what we call deliberate practice. The same concept elite athletes use. You isolate the weakness, you fix it, and you move forward. Your second study hour is midday, maybe during lunch, maybe during your kid's nap. You focus here on review to build your understanding. And that's where most students fail. They finish drills, get a score, and move on. But that's like shooting free throws all day and never watching the replays. Your second hour, even if it's during lunch, is for reviewing why you got things wrong. You want to ask 3 questions here. What made the wrong answer tempting? What made the right answer correct? And what should I notice next time around? We literally build review trackers for our students around those 3 questions. That's how you start spotting patterns. Your brain begins to recognize the LSAT's tricks automatically. Then your third study hour in the evening is where you apply what you've learned to build up your endurance. You do a timed section at minimum, no breaks, no pausing. And if you can't carve out an hour, just do a 35-minute individual section. The goal here is not to be perfect, it's to simulate real test day conditions and track your pacing. Then the next morning, you loop back to your first hour of the day where you focus on what went wrong. That's it. You focus, you review, and you apply. This is simple, repeatable, and brutally effective. If you stick to this even 5 days a week, you're going to improve faster than people doing double the hours with no structure. And of course, I know you're going to have days where nothing goes according to plan. Your kid gets sick, your boss schedules a surprise meeting, and you're exhausted. That's real life. But here's what you want to do instead of giving up. Do just 20 minutes of light review. Maybe watch an explanation video or read through your wrong answer journal. Or maybe even just reread one LSAT passage and summarize its argument. That's it. You want to keep the habit going. Momentum matters more than perfection. Students will often come to me worried, thinking that missing one day ruins everything, but it doesn't. If you're tired, you're sick, or you're stressed, dial the intensity down. Something is better than nothing, though, so don't let your brain fully detach. That's how busy professionals get to 175. They stay connected to the LSAT even on hard days. Now, most students don't plateau because they're lazy. They plateau because they're studying the same way over and over, expecting different results. They'll keep drilling sections, but they never slow down to analyze. The hard truth is that improvement happens during review, not during testing. When you're drilling, you're collecting data. When you review, you turn that data into insight. And that's why I tell my students your study hours don't all count the same. An hour of mindless practice might be worth 1 point, but an hour of thoughtful review might be worth 5 points. So if your time is limited, you can still win this game by being smarter about how you study. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, Steve, I want to study smart, but I have no idea what to focus on or how to build a plan around my life, that is exactly why I'm offering free private LSAT tutoring lessons to everybody out there watching this video. This is a private one-on-one session with me personally where we'll diagnose your weak areas, build you a customized plan of attack, and give you the exact steps you need to improve fast. You're going to walk away knowing what to study, when, and how. No guessing. It's completely free. You can book it at unpluggedprep.com/start or take a photo of the QR code up there in the corner. Link it below the video on YouTube, in my bio on Instagram. This is completely free. And after coaching thousands of students over the past 20 years, I can tell you this: a single good plan can save you hundreds of wasted hours. Now, one of the hardest parts of this journey isn't the logic, it's the comparison. A student recently asked me, is 3 months enough to go from a 150 to a 175? My answer is yes, of course, but you've got to stop comparing your timeline to anybody else's. You might see somebody on Reddit who jumped 15 points in 2 months. That's great for them, but it has zero bearing on you. Here's a better mental frame. You're not studying for the LSAT, you are training for law school. Every hour you spend mastering logical reasoning builds the exact muscles you're going to need to crush your law school exams later. Every passage you analyze trains your brain to think like a lawyer. So instead of saying, I've got to study for the LSAT, say to yourself, I'm investing in my future law career. Because that's what this is. The LSAT is not a punishment. It is preparation for a better life. And when your why gets strong, your discipline stops being negotiable. Now, let's get tactical here. Logic Games is off the test. Now your score comes entirely from logical reasoning and reading comp. That means your prep has to evolve. For logical reasoning, do small clusters of just 3 to 5 questions in a row, then review them deeply. And also keep a mistake log. Note patterns like I fall for extreme language or I ignore causal alternatives. When you see the same trap enough times, your brain learns to sidestep it automatically. Now, for reading comp, focus on argument structure, not the content. After each paragraph, ask, what role does this play in the author's argument? That's how you avoid rereading everything 3 times. And for endurance, take full timed sections at least twice a week. No breaks, no snacks, no music, and build your stamina gradually. Remember, you're not studying to finish questions, you are studying to understand patterns. And the LSAT is predictable once you've seen enough of its tricks. Now, every year, students rush to apply early with mediocre scores. They think applying sooner gives them an advantage. But law schools reward higher scores, not earlier applications. One extra point on the LSAT could be $5,000 to $10,000 in scholarship money. And 5 extra points can change your entire career trajectory. So if your score isn't where you want it yet, wait, push your test back a month or 2. Take the time to get it right. Law school is not going anywhere, but your financial aid might, if you settle. Now, everybody talks about study plans, but very few talk about how to make them stick. Here's what actually works when you're busy. First, habit stacking. Habit stacking. Tie your study sessions to something you already do. For example, as soon as I pour my morning coffee, I do a single logical reasoning question. And micro commitments. For example, instead of saying I'll study 3 hours today, just start with 20 minutes. Once you begin, you can usually keep going. Third is public accountability. Tell your family and your coworkers from 6 to 7 a.m., I'm studying for the LSAT. Or from 7 to 8 p.m., I'm studying LSAT. Please don't interrupt me. You would be amazed at how much more consistent you become when other people know your schedule. And finally, track visible progress. Print out your old scores, highlight improvements, even small ones. Momentum feeds motivation. Now, let's bring this home. When students ask me, do you really think I can hit a 175? My answer is yes, but you've got to fight for it. And that's exactly why it's worth it. You might have people telling you, you're too old, you're too busy, realistic, settle. I want you to ignore them. You've already done harder things than the LSAT. If you can raise kids, work full time, manage a household, make it through college, and still find time to study, you're already tougher than 95% of law school applicants. The LSAT is not a measure of your intelligence, it's a measure of your adaptability. So take your diagnostic, build your plan, and show up for yourself every single day, even when it's inconvenient. And once you hit that 175, remember, it's not luck. It's the consequence of following a system.